Okay, welcome back to Believe You Are a Good Mom. I have an extra super special guest. I know I say that every time, but Dr. Paul Jenkins is in the house.
Oh, Emily,
Dr.
it's good to
Paul,
be in your house on your mic.
you are literally in my house.
That's
So
so
fun.
awesome.
Well, not really. Virtually, you're in my house. Okay. So Dr. Paul is a positivity psychologist, right? Is that what you call yourself?
Yes, it is. That's not even a thing. I just kind of made that up.
Right? I made up what I
Uh,
am.
I mean, I earned the psychologist part of that. I went to school, got the degree, got the license. The positivity designation came when I decided, you know what? I've been doing psychotherapy for 15 years. And unfortunately, psychotherapy sounds a little like therapy for psychos.
Correct.
And that's unfortunate because it
Uh-huh.
makes it inaccessible to a lot of folks who are not wanting to sign up for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there are principles that help us to live, create and live the life that we love. And they're simple principles that we can apply. But I kind of left the tribe of
Uh-huh.
traditional clinical psychology and I switched over to positivity and positive psychology, where we simply focus on the principles that will allow us to get different outcomes. And it
Awesome.
has been a kick ever
Nice.
since.
Awesome. Okay, so tell us about your really cute, you still have it, right? Handy. Okay, because I'm
The,
gonna upload this video. So go to Spotify,
the
watch the
cute
video,
little
or
book.
YouTube. Yes, we have to see how cute it is. And it's little. And it fits in your pocket. Put it in your pocket. Everybody's watching the
This
video.
and what you're referring to, if anybody's picking up the audio version of this is
Uh-huh.
my mini book, Portable Positivity. This actually came out a year after my main book, Pathological Positivity,
Mm-hmm.
which sounds kind of funny because, pathological in psychology, that means disordered, disconnected
Yeah.
from reality, crazy,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
But it also means compulsively driven,
Mm.
kind of like a pathological liar can't stop
Uh-huh.
doing it.
Uh-huh.
And it's a determined, chosen approach to choose a positive position regardless of the circumstances.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, as I was writing my first book, it occurred to me that the principles I've been teaching could be summarized in a model, a tight little model that helps us to understand how to operate the equipment of our own mind.
Nice.
And that's what portable positivity is. It's the model that I have put together. It's basically my life's work in your pocket.
So fun.
it it'll fit
I'm a
right in.
fan of how small it is and
It's
and
cute,
concise.
huh?
I I love to buy books and not read them. Even get them on Audible and not listen to them because I'm very interested, but then life happens. And so I like
Yeah.
concise. So this
And
is
the even more concise version of this is the model that it describes. So this is 78 pages of awesomeness
mm-hmm.
that describes a model that is a quick visual capture. It's in the mini book. And for anybody who's listening, I'll give you a free download of this mini book. And
Nice.
I think you've got the link,
I
right,
do.
Emily?
I'll
So
put it in the show notes. You can tell us what it is. And
it's pretty easy to remember. If you remember my name, Dr. Paul Jenkins, spelled with a DR. And then just drpauljenkins.com/good mom.
that's right.
I don't know how you're
You
going to
are a
remember
good
that.
mom.
Good mom. It's just for the listeners of your show, Emily, to get a free digital download of that. And we'll probably talk a little bit more about why that might be a good idea
Yeah,
to
we
get a
will
hold
for
of
sure.
this.
So first, let me just say, don't forget the doctor part because I've made that mistake before.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
it's
Dr.
DR,
Paul
not,
Jenkins.
don't spell
Oh
it
yeah,
out,
yeah.
just
There you go.
DR, pauljenkins.com, then /good mom, and I'll set you up with that mini book.
Perfect. Okay, so run us through the model and tell us how believing that we are a good mom works in this model.
Oh, first of all, let's just acknowledge something.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a problem that comes up routinely in our psychology. Remember, I'm a professional psychologist. I've been doing this for 30 years, which is more than some of you listeners have been doing anything.
Right.
But
Living.
in this 3 decades of clinical experience, I've discovered what the number one error is in our thinking.
Nice. What is it?
Okay, here it is. Our number one error is that we believe what we think.
Nice. Yep.
Do you see it?
Mm-hmm.
We know that we're right. Emily, it's not that we think we're right.
Mm-hmm.
No, this goes to a different level. We know we're right.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as we think we're a bad mom, we're not doing a good enough job, we're falling short, we're getting behind the game somehow. It's not just that we're thinking that, we actually know that we're right about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that totally drives our feelings, which has us showing up in certain ways, and that's what creates our results. Mm-hmm. So it becomes a trap. I just want to open up that little window of knowledge as we start this off. So whatever you're currently thinking, you also probably believe.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. And that goes to a different level. So if I or you, Emily, or anyone else suggests a different thought, it's not going to sound right to you.
Yeah.
It's going to feel foreign. Your brain will resist it a little bit because you've already got your belief.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to invite everybody who's listening in to just be open to the possibility that there's an alternative. That maybe we can be humble. Now, I define humble, humility, as giving up our need to be right.
Yeah.
In exchange for being open. And don't you kind of hope you're wrong?
About a lot of things, for sure.
About some of those things that have you feeling miserable or inadequate or depressed. Yep. I hope you're wrong about that. I kind of have an opinion that you probably are wrong about that. But just notice that you already know you're right. See, my job is to illuminate the obvious. This is so much fun, Emily, because I get to receive fees and get paid to tell people things they already know. But there's a lot of things that are obvious, but unnoticed.
Yeah.
Until they're called to your attention. Okay, like your shirt. Can you feel it?
Now that you mention it.
Now you can. Right? And it's so obvious. Everyone, as you're listening to this right now, just notice how obvious it is. You can feel your shirt, but you did not feel it or notice it at all. Yeah, technically you felt it, but you didn't notice it because your brain just tunes that out. Right. It tells you that it's unimportant. As soon as I mention it, it comes to your attention and it's obvious. Or the fact that we're speaking English. Did you notice?
Didn't think about it.
Right. And it's totally obvious right now. But it's unnoticed until it's called to your attention.
Yeah.
So my job as a positivity psychologist is simply to bring it to your attention. What you do with it after that is totally up to you.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not here to tell you how to think. I don't have that kind of authority. I do want you to see that you are thinking and that your thinking makes a difference. So going back to the model, the one that's in the mini book, there are two processes that I want to call to your attention. Okay. And first of all, notice this. This is another obvious but unnoticed thing. I call it metacognition. All right. And that's just a fancy psychobabble word.
For thinking about your thinking.
For thinking about your thinking. You nailed it. Yeah. Cognition means thinking. Metacognition is a little higher level. It's thinking about your thinking. Yeah. Notice, as I call that to your attention, that you can do this, which is good news, but it's also dangerous. Be careful with this. You can hurt yourself. Just notice that you can do it. You can think about your thinking. What I love about this is metacognition creates a space. And in that space is where choice exists. Until you see it as a choice, it's not.
Right.
You're just going to roll with whatever you already think. And like we already pointed out, you're going to believe what you already think.
Mm-hmm.
So we get stuck in that trap until we can go to that level of metacognition. Think about your thinking. Notice what's going on there, as I pointed out to you, because there's two processes you got to know about.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're aware of them, you're in a position of choice. But until you see it, you're just going to roll with whatever your programming is.
Okay.
Isn't this
Got
fun?
It is. I geek out on this stuff all the time. I love this.
I can tell, just as we're having this conversation, I'm seeing you just tracking this, because it's so fascinating to see what our own mind is doing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so two processes. The first is evaluation, meaning judgment. Okay, notice that you are judging all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see it?
Oh, I know.
You are constantly judging yourself,
Mm-hmm.
fairly harshly at times.
Mm-hmm.
Just notice it. You judge your spouse, you judge your kids, you judge how you're doing as a mom,
Mm-hmm.
you judge the government, you judge the economy, you judge your neighbors, you judge the people who are doing that down at the place. You judge you're judging me.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, I'm judging you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can't turn it off. That's my point. It's kind of like gravity. Okay, you never get up in the morning and think, I wonder if gravity's on today. It tends to be. And this is like gravity, okay? It's a principle of psychology. You are constantly judging. You have to. Because your brain, just to give you a context around this, Emily, your brain has two main jobs: to keep you safe,
mm-hmm.
and to prove you right.
Nice.
And they both get us into trouble all the time.
Uh-huh.
You know this as a coach, don't you?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And the keep you safe part is trying to watch out for any threats anywhere, and you end up avoiding and staying away from things that maybe you should jump into. But then the prove you right part is whatever you already believe is what your brain is going to go out there and find evidence for.
Mm-hmm.
I say find, but your brain is also willing to create or fabricate evidence for what you already believe. Okay. Yeah. So just notice that you're always judging. Now, evaluation or judgment implies comparison with some standard. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, am I a tall man? What do you know about that, Emily?
It depends on who you're standing next to.
Right. I ask, sometimes I'll be given a keynote or a training somewhere, and I'll ask the audience, am I a tall man? And they're like, well, yeah, I guess so, whatever. Right. I'm standing right in front of them. And then I put up a slide of me standing next to Mark Eaton. Mark passed away a couple of years ago, but he used to play center for the Utah Jazz. He's 7'4".
Uh-huh.
And next to Mark,
very tall man.
Like I'm 6'2".
Uh-huh. Oh wow.
Which is pretty tall.
Yeah.
Compared to whom?
Right.
You or most people, right? But when you put me next to Mark Eaton, I'm a shrimp. I barely make his shoulder.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So the evaluation that we do depends on who or what we compare ourselves to. And if you don't have a standard, you'll make one up.
Yep.
Okay, now let's back up just a piece. Since we're geeking out on the psychology part, check this out. Have you ever heard the phrase, it is what it is?
Oh, yeah.
Which can be kind of annoying depending on who's saying it. But all it means is the way things are, okay? The way things are right now without changing anything. What it is all you've got. So you think about where you are, who you're with, your kids, what they're doing, how you're performing your job or your job as a mom. Okay, it is what it is. but your brain can't leave it alone. It has to evaluate it.
Yeah.
Now check this out. What it is always, Emily, my editor told me to always avoid the word always.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And I just use what it is.
Guess what? Emily doesn't edit these. So go ahead and say
sweet. So this is going out unedited.
Uh-huh.
What it is always between better and worse.
Okay.
Think about that. Because if that's true, then no matter how bad things seem, it could always be worse.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Sure.
Okay, now don't take my word for it. I just want you to run it through your filters and see.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So what comes up for me is when I think about how hard my life is, all I need to do is talk to anybody else.
Right.
And hear what they're going through. And I'm like, okay, I'll keep my
I'll
challenges.
take this, thank you.
Yeah.
Right. I had a young man on my podcast named Gabriel Adams. I don't know if you've ever run into Gabe.
I don't know.
Just to give you a sense, okay, the title of that episode, No Arms, No Legs.
Oh, wow.
No problem.
Nice.
This young man in his early 20s, no arms, no legs.
Oh, wow.
How you feeling about your body right about
exactly.
now?
I'm pretty dang grateful.
Right? I mean, how often do we look in the mirror or we look at our body and we think, ugh. Right?
Right.
But then you see this young man with no arms and no legs, and it's like, oh, I'll keep this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a friend who had a son with no arms, and there were so many things I never even would have considered. Because arms, okay, he can't do things with his arms, but what about sweat glands? He has that many less sweat glands, and he has to compensate for that.
Things you would never even think about. You don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as I'm talking to Gabe, he can shampoo and condition his own hair.
How?
I know, right? And I'm like, how do you do that without arms and hands? And he's like, how do you do it with arms and hands? I've never tried it that way. And he's like, I made a video. I'm like, Gabe, you made a shower video? He's like, don't worry, it's G-rated. The hardest part is getting out of the tub when he's wet.
I gotta see this video.
I know, right? So go look him up, Gabriel Adams. So inspiring. But so going back to the model, okay? Yeah. It is what it is. It could always be worse.
Yeah.
Is that true the other direction? No matter how good things seem, it could always be
better.
Sure.
Uh-huh.
Is that true?
That's what we think. We're always trying to get there.
Well, think of your bank account.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's pretty obvious it could be better.
Yeah.
Right?
If more is better.
Even though you're in the top 10% of the world's wealthy.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it. How many devices do you own that have a screen? How do you travel to the grocery store? I mean, you are in a position that is far above the majority of the world's population. If you have a vehicle, if you have a device that has a screen on it. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, just track that for a minute. Wow. So that's the assumption we're working with. What it is all you got. By definition, I'm not saying it's all you could have. We're going to get to that.
Mm-hmm.
But it is all you've got. And what it is always between better and worse.
Yeah.
We okay with those assumptions?
Yep.
So given that, let's look at what happens when we take what we've got, what it is, and we compare it as we judge it, because we can't turn that off. We compare it to something better. Then how do we feel about what we've got?
Terrible.
It sucks. And it's true. It does suck compared to something better.
Mm-hmm.
But turn that around. What if we take what we've got and we compare it to something worse? Then how do we feel about what we've got?
Grateful.
Yeah. And you nailed it. Gratitude. is the feeling that that generates. And it's not like holier than thou or I'm better than you. No, it's simply, oh, I'm so grateful for what I've got. Thank you. I'll keep this.
Yeah.
Okay. Notice that. Here's the thing. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to judge it? Now let's go to the primary answer that your podcast provides to the world.
Yeah.
All right. The title of your show is
Believe You Are a Good Mom.
What? What kind of mom are you? Now that's a trick question.
Uh-huh.
All right. The best answer to that is it is what it is.
Yeah. The kind of mom I am.
I am the kind of mom I am.
Mm-hmm.
Now, could it be better? Could it be worse? Mm-hmm. Pick a position. And notice that you already have. If you say you're a bad mom, that is true compared to being a better one.
Right.
And how does that feel? It sucks.
Yeah.
To believe that you're a bad mom. The only reason you believe it is because you're comparing yourself to some higher standard that you're not hitting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, pause for a minute. Okay. Emily, after being a shrink for 30 years, you can't shock me.
Okay. Is this confessions of a good mom?
I have heard some of the darndest crap you can imagine. Okay. And for 13 years of my career, I did child custody evaluations for the court. I've done parental fitness evaluations for the court. Okay. I've evaluated parents.
Wow.
For forensic purposes. I testified in a case where one of my clients killed her daughter.
Holy.
I have seen parents who have sold their children into exploitive situations.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to give you all the details around that. I have seen some pretty goofy crap.
Mm-hmm.
Now, compared to some of what I've seen, how you doing?
Much better, thank you.
Right? You're feeling pretty good about your mommyhood right now?
I guess so, comparatively.
Enough with the mom guilt.
I know.
Right? Mm-hmm. How you're doing is what it is. Now, you get to decide how you're going to judge that. When you compare how you're doing to something better, you're going to feel worse about how you're doing. Mm-hmm. When you compare how you're doing to something worse, you're going to feel a little better about how you're doing. Yeah. Pick a position. Mm-hmm. So I love the title of your podcast because it's a suggestion. It's an option that you can choose. Yes. Are you a good mom? Yes.
Let's decide that you are.
Decide that you are. And ask your brain to start finding evidence. Yes. To support that. This is called confirmation bias. Whatever we already believe, our brain is going to try to prove us right about that. It doesn't mean you are right. Now, Emily, I've had
matter. It doesn't matter if you're right or not, if you believe you are. Right.
Yeah, well, what's right? I mean, the only accurate answer is it is what it is.
Yeah.
You are exactly the kind of mom that you currently are. And notice that you're judging it. Mm-hmm. All right. Mm-hmm. I have some of my clients sometimes, they're like, well, I don't want to lie to myself. And I'm like,
it's a lie.
You already are. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just notice that you are already taking a position about that. Yeah. And that position, what you choose about that, profoundly affects how you feel.
Yes.
And how you feel determines how you show up. And how you show up creates your results. Now, this is good news. Okay, it bites a little bit. It's kind of like when I was going to see a client that lives in southern Utah. Now, you and I are both in Utah, and we know the geography. Way down in St. George. Yeah. And I'm going to see this client. And you know how, have you done this before when you're out driving and you get lost in your thoughts, or you're listening to a podcast or something awesome, and you go right past your exit?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I did this, right? And I realized I missed
You're
my
in
exit.
Vegas? Yeah.
When I saw this, well, it was almost that. I saw this big colorful sign. Arizona welcomes you.
Oh, no.
I'm like, Arizona? And it bites a little when I look down and I see whose hands are on my steering wheel. Right?
No one else to blame.
Well, and this happens to us all the time when we look around and we say, oh, crap, this isn't what I pictured. This isn't what I wanted. I'm not where I want to be. Look down. Whose hands are on the wheel?
Yeah.
And it bites a little, but the good news is also the bad news, because if my hands are on the wheel, what can I do now? Steer it, take it. Where do you want to go? Which leads us right to the second thing. Remember, I promised there are two processes going on in your mind all the time. And this is described in that mini book. Okay. I walk you through it. In fact, the visual model that I've created for this, in our evaluation of what it is, if we compare what it is to something better, we feel worse about what it is. When we compare what it is to something worse, we feel better about what it is. Now, that energy takes us to the creation mode. Okay. So evaluation, we've already talked about that. You can't turn it off. Creation. You have to create. You can't turn it off. Okay. I believe this from a divine standpoint as well, that we are creators. It's in our nature. It's what we do as humans. You have to create something. Now, what if I gave you a little challenge? Just as you're listening to this episode of Emily's brilliant podcast, what if we just push pause and we take 15 minutes? That's all you get. 15 minutes to do this little experiment. I want you to go out there and use your creative power to somehow make your life worse. Ready? Wait, what? Why are you scowling, Emily?
Because I don't know what to do to make it worse.
Would you ever do that on purpose? You would never do that on purpose.
Right.
We do it accidentally.
I'm sure I do it accidentally. Yeah, yeah.
But check it out. Your brain can come up with half a dozen ways to pull that off. When you open that, step into oncoming traffic.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Rob a bank. Punch your spouse in the face. Steal something. Abuse a child. There are so many ways to make your life worse. Now, I just want you to notice that. What stands between you and actually doing that?
My conscience, maybe?
Thank you. Yes. I'm so glad you are a moral human being, right? Your conscience, your choice is the only thing that stands between you and doing any of those crazy ideas that would absolutely make your life worse.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah, yeah.
It's your choice. This is good news. And it's good news that you can make a mess. And if you haven't noticed yet, just look around and see if you can find any messes that you made, because probably you're going to find some.
Yeah.
Right? This is good news. You can, because if you can make a mess, which we know you can, then you can make. That's good news.
Oh, wow. I tell that to my kids all the time. You know, it's really easy for them to make a mess. I'm like, it took you 5 seconds to make this mess. If you made the mess, why can't you clean up the mess?
Well, and we got the second law of thermodynamics called the entropy, which means it's easier to make a mess than it is to make a masterpiece. Things always tend toward a more disorganized state. That's one of the laws of the universe. Okay. If you drop a jar of marbles,
can I crochet that and put it on the wall? Cross stitch it. I need a sampler that says.
Please do. Just go to the dropping the jar of marbles. It's more likely to shatter and scatter than it is to upturn and stack every marble on top of itself just naturally.
Yeah.
Okay, now that's an extreme example of the law of entropy.
Okay.
Things will always progress toward a more disorganized state. So when we get to this second process, creation,
Mm-hmm.
you can make a mess.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good news. Anybody can do that. It doesn't even take any energy, really, because everything's going to go toward a more disorganized state naturally. Default is down. Okay, you never hear of anyone falling up or of the dishes doing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
that'd be cool.
just what I'm describing to you is a law of the universe.
Okay.
Creation is something you have to do. You can't turn it off. So let's get clear about what we want.
Uh-huh.
Now, what if I gave you two options? Emily, you can have, in the future, you can have something better or something worse. Now, what do you want? Do you want a few minutes to
I
think
think I'll
about it?
take the better.
Oh, ding, 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 ding. Right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, we don't even have to think about it too hard. What do we want? We want something better. Well, newsflash, better requires effort. Worse doesn't take any effort. Okay. You can go intentionally make a mess. We already figured that out.
Yeah.
But doing nothing tends toward worse. I mean, think about your workout plan or your diet or your bank account. I mean, or your relationship with your hubby.
Mm-hmm.
If you ignore it, which direction does it go?
Worse.
Yeah. Welcome to Earth. Okay. It doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It probably just means let's get intentional about what we want to create.
Yeah.
Now, focus on the feelings for a minute, because this is where my expertise is as a psychologist. It is what it is. And that's your only starting point. I don't know how you start from anywhere else. Okay. Right. What I'm saying here is you're right on schedule. You're exactly where you need to be for what's next.
Okay.
Okay. Now, and how does that feel, by the way, when I say that?
Well, what's next was a little scary. Like, what do you mean by that?
Oh my gosh. But something's next.
I know.
Right? Something's next. You get to choose what direction you want to take that.
Okay. That's
all right. So that's good news. Now it's a little bit of a responsibility too. But remember, if we don't do it intentionally, it's going to tend toward the worst side.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm not saying you have to choose to create something better, but what is to be doesn't exist yet. We haven't created it yet.
Okay.
How you doing next week? You don't know. You don't know. You've got guesses, you've got projections and anticipations of what's coming, but you don't know.
Yeah.
So the only place it exists is in our imagination.
Right.
Newsflash, imagination is where we first create what is to be.
Yeah.
Okay. Everything that, I mean, look around your house. Everything that exists in this space around you right now, somebody created. And before it was created physically, they had to think it up.
Yeah.
It was first thunk.
Mm-hmm.
Can I say it that way?
Go ahead.
Now, while we're in the imagination mode, we're going to take what it is. As you anticipate what is to be, focus on the feelings here, okay? If you imagine or predict or expect or anticipate that what's coming is even worse than what you've already got, how do you feel?
Worse.
Yeah.
Dread,
fear, anxiety. All right. That's 30 years of clinical experience in a nutshell.
Right.
Because anxiety is defined by imagining that what's coming is worse than what we've already got.
Yeah.
Okay. Just wrap your head around that for a minute.
Yeah.
Now, focusing on the feelings, how do you feel when you imagine or predict or expect that what's coming is even better than what you've already got? How do you feel?
Hopeful,
Yeah.
excited.
I love that you nailed the word hope just then, because that hopeful feeling, did you know the number one risk factor for suicide is hopelessness?
Mm-hmm.
This literally saves lives because we can choose hope. But a lot of people don't understand that. They're waiting for their life or their circumstances or the world to provide it for them. And they don't understand that the circumstances are neutral.
Mm-hmm.
What we predict or expect creates our feeling, and that's based in our imagination. So in the model, negative evaluation leads to depression. Negative creation leads to anxiety. That's the mental health trap. And that's why I said that's 30 years of clinical experience in a nutshell. Yeah. As a professional psychologist, I'm telling you, this is what creates it. Mm-hmm. The positivity vector starts with gratitude for what we already have without changing anything. And with that energy, we go create hope on demand by creating upgrades to what's already awesome. I mean, how are you doing as a mom? Trick question. Mm-hmm. It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Get into a positive. You are a good mom.
Yeah.
Look, whether you believe that or not is up to you.
Right.
But as a professional psychologist, and I can tell you, I've evaluated lots of moms over the years. I've told you about a few of them.
Yeah, I see.
I know from a professional standpoint that you are a good mom. The fact that you're listening to this podcast tells me you are a good mom. The fact that you care about your children or about how you're doing as a mom tells me that you're a good mom.
Yeah.
How does that feel? Pause. Stay there for a minute. Believe you are a good mom. Now, that starts with thinking that you're a good mom, and hopefully we're supporting that today in this conversation. As you pause and feel grateful for the abundant, rich experience that you're having right now as a mom without changing anything, enjoy that for a moment. Be there. Pause. Give yourself a moment to let that sink in. And then at some appropriate point, and it'll come sooner than you might think, we're going to move to creation mode. Now, where to from here? Could it be better? Well, yeah, but when is that going to stop being true?
Right.
And you have to create something. So what do you want for next week? Do you want something a little better or a little worse than what you already got? And I'll get behind your creation project all day long. But Emily, my biggest challenge is I'm doing my parenting programs and the coaching groups that we run at Live on Purpose Central, all of these things that I'm doing to support good moms like you. Mm-hmm. My biggest challenge is first to help people do exactly what the title of your podcast suggests. You are right on track, Emily, with where you're going with this, because that's the biggest barrier to actually improving our position, which we don't have to do because it's already awesome.
Yeah.
But you got to create something. So might as well pick something that serves you well, something that serves your family well.
Yep. Amen. Hallelujah.
What's sticking and clicking for you, Emily? I laid a lot on you. I laid a lot on you right there.
I love it. All. Yeah. This is good. This is good. Thanks for validating my purpose here.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Thank you for what you're doing. I forget when I had the opportunity to come on. Emily's podcast about believe you are a good mom. I'm like, heck yes, sign me up.
That. Yeah.
So I get to be on your team.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for coming. Let's just remind people how to get that little mini book, drpauljenkins.com/good mom.
Pretty easy to remember. Good mom. And remember my name, Dr. Paul Jenkins, spelled with a DR. You'll get right there. I'm going to put this in your hands. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's easy to understand. Hopefully, as I've illuminated the obvious to you here today, it's clicking. It's like, oh yeah. Oh, I see that. Good. Awesome. Now you don't have to change anything. Mm-hmm. Be aware of it. See that it's happening. Be curious about it. And there's help available. I mean, you can keep listening to Emily's podcast, for Pete's sake. I mean, that's going to help you to develop that belief and get whatever coaching you need to support you in that process. You don't have to do this alone. Yeah. Look, you're a good mom. And we're going to build on that to take you to an upgrade. Yeah. Can I just comment about that real quick? Because some people feel like, well, if I need to improve, look, you don't need to improve. You have to change. And it's going to go either on the better direction or the worse direction. So pick a direction. Mm-hmm. Things can't be exactly the same. I mean, think about it. 8 o'clock. Is 8 o'clock coming? Yes. Pretty sure. Yeah. Does every day. It probably look at your clock, people. I mean, it's coming. Twice a day. Are you going to be around at 8 o'clock? I hope so. Yeah, most likely. I mean, you've made it to every 8 o'clock so far your whole life. Uh-huh. And this is the brain hack. Check it out. Things cannot be exactly the same at 8 o'clock as they are right now. Yeah. At the very least, you're going to be a little older. Uh-huh. Well, I just keep thinking of the status of the cleanliness of my kitchen. And it could be any aspect of your life. You just look at it. It's not going to be exactly the same. Uh-huh. It's going to be at least a little, if not a lot different. Yeah. And by your own evaluation, which you can't turn off, okay, because you're constantly judging, it has to be, because it'll be different, it has to be either better or worse. Yeah. By your own judgment. Right. Okay, we already know you can make things worse if you chose to. Yeah. What if you were to just decide, I am going to shoot for better by 8? I call this BB-8, kind of like the little droid on Star Wars. Right? Oh, I have one right here. You've got BB-8 there? See, this is your reminder. BB-8 stands for better by 8. Nice. Uh-huh. Just think about right now, what could you do as a mom, as a wife, as a business owner, at whatever role you want to choose. It doesn't matter. In your health, your finances. What could I do to make this aspect of my life a little better by 8? Now, what is your mind doing? It's cleaning the kitchen. So it's not letting the kids back in the kitchen until after 8. Well, notice your brain is starting to give you ideas of what you could do to upgrade that thing just a little better by 8. Uh-huh. It can be a little or a lot. I mean, it's your creation project. You can choose. But that's the brain hack. Better by 8. That's a creation brain hack. Okay. Mm-hmm. When we're referring back to the model, go find ask your brain to just hand you an idea or two of how to make it better by 8. I'm not talking next week, next month, next year, or even overall. I'm just saying by 8 o'clock. Yeah. So if 8 o'clock is bedtime and I want to make that better, then I could go get my mommy me time now so that I'm feeling more filled instead of like waiting till after bedtime. Okay. Which makes bedtime even more stressful because I want to get it over with so that I can have my me time. Whatever your brain hands you is legitimate. Mm-hmm. Notice you're just asking your brain to go create something better, even though what you've got is already awesome. Yeah. How does that feel? Fun. Kind of cool, huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you do this 5 days in a row, you get to have 10 upgrades.
Oh,
Because
because
there's
there's
two
two
8
eights.
o'clocks every day in case you don't get up early.
Uh,
There's two 8 o'clocks every day. And if you just practice better by 8 for 5 days, you could have 10 upgrades.
yeah.
Notice what kind of hope that brings. That is awesome.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah, go get the mini book, okay? I'll help you understand the model if you just go grab the mini book, drpauljenkins.com/goodmom. We'll put this right in your hands. I'll even send you a physical copy if you want to pick up the shipping.
Yeah.
So that's a resource for you. And thank you, Emily, for inviting me to join you on your mic today. It's been fun.
Thank you. And let me just remind everyone, because there won't be an outro, if you need more help learning how to believe you are a good mom, it's dropthewarlifecoach.com/believe.
There you go.
Let's believe it, people, because our
Go
brain
do it.
because our brain wants to believe what we believe. What's your what was the first thing we talked about?
We already believe what we think.
Yeah.
So we get to practice believing something that might be more true and certainly would serve you better. I hope you can see that.
Yeah. Let's do it. All right. Thanks so much, Dr. Paul.
You're welcome. We'll see you.